Welcome to the Advanced Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to create this entire gorgeous balloon backdrop using our pink champagne balloon kits, which are linked in the description box below. Inflate the 11 and 17-inch balloons to a variety of sizes for an organic look. Tie them into pairs and then take two of those pairs and overlap them so that the nozzles touch and twist one balloon around each other, locking them into a quad. Once I've made several quads, I'm going to tie them together into a balloon garland using an empty 260 balloon. Simply tie the end of that 260 to the nozzles of your first quad by wrapping it around a couple times in a figure eight pattern to secure them together. Now you're going to grab another quad of the same color and nestle it right on top so the balloons are really close. Pull that 260 up to the center and wrap it in a figure eight around a couple of the balloons, and that will secure the two quads together in the start of our garland. I'm creating a color blocked pattern in this garland, which means all the balloons in each quad are the same color, and then I'm putting one or two quads of the same color right next to each other, so each color really has a chance to shine. Now once you've got 6 or 7 quads all tied together, you're going to take the remaining 260 tail and tie it to one of the nozzles of that final quad so all the balloons stay together. I made 2 balloon garlands of this length, so I have one garland to put on the upper right hand side and one on the lower left hand side of this design. I'm using 3 metal arch frames in different sizes as the structural element for this design, and all of these are covered in slip covers made up of stretchy material, kind of like a pillowcase you can just pull right over the top of these frames. Covers come in a variety of colors, but I really want my central arch to stand out. So I'm going to cover it with this sequined rose gold fabric, which is actually a stretchy tablecloth, right over the top of the slipcover, making sure it goes all the way down to the floor. Then I'm going to flip the arch around and gather the top part of this tablecloth in one hand, pulling it nice and snug over the arched section of my frame. I want to make sure we don't have any bulges or ripples in the fabric on the front side, so you may have to peek around to the other side to make sure it's nice and smooth. Then you're going to take the fabric that's gathered in your hand and clip it all together, either using a spring clamp or you can use a binder clip. I moved down and repeated this process both in the center of the arch and then once more near the foot of the arch. That way our fabric is stretched nice and tight across the entire front side. Finally, I'm going to tuck any remaining fabric under the edge of the arch frame so we have a nice straight line instead of a pool of excess fabric. If you have a sign you want to include in the design, now is a great time to add it. I'm hanging my sign using a little bit of fishing line and some safety pins, but wire is another great option. Once I've got the safety pins tied to the end of my fishing line, I'm going to hold the sign up about where I want it, pass that fishing line up and over the top of the arch, and safety pin it to the fabric on the back side. Now we need a way to anchor our balloons to the arches, and I'll be using some binder clips and empty 260 modeling balloons to do that. Slip the binder clip over the metal frame and then take your empty 260 balloon and thread it through the handles of that binder clip and tie it in a double knot. I like to leave the tail ends of my 260 free so I can wrap each one of those around a different set of balloons, but you can also tie the ends of these 260s together to create one giant loop and easily slip it over a single balloon in your garland. For this design, I want my balloon garland to follow the top edges of my arches, so I'm going to put a slight curve in my garland, allowing it to nestle down in the valley between my two arches. I'm going to set my garland right on top and then start pulling some of the balloons down over the edge of the arch so that the frame edge is sitting right against the nozzles of those balloons. Once I've got a couple of these pulled down and I'm happy with where it's sitting, I'm then going to take that empty 260 balloon that's attached to those binder clips, pull it taut, and wrap it around one or two of the balloons that are right next to the binder clip in a figure eight pattern, and that will secure the two of them together. Then you can just let the tail of that 260 go and it'll disappear down into the garland. I then attached my second garland on the lower left side of that central arch, bending the garland so about a third of it was climbing up the side of the arch and the other 2/3 were sprawling across the floor, creating a base for us to add even more balloons on top of it and add drama and excitement to this design. So once it's attached to the frame, I'm going to create some clusters of 6 balloons to add on top. So take 3 pairs of 11-inch balloons, slip 2 of them together by twisting them around each other, and then take a third pair, Slip it in so all the nozzles of those pairs are touching, and then twist one balloon from that new pair around the others, and that will create a cluster. I'm going to add this cluster to the garland on the floor anywhere I want to expand it out. So I'm going to use another one of those empty 260 balloons to tie the cluster into the garland. Simply tie the end of the 260 to the cluster, then nestle that cluster right up against the garland anywhere you have some large gaps or you want to add more volume. Stretch that 260 tight and wrap it around one or two of the balloons that's already in the garland. Bring it back and wrap it around one or two of the balloons in the cluster so that they're nice and snugly tied together. Now, because there's so much length on the 260, I'm going to use that remaining 260 tail to tie in another set of balloons. My favorite balloons out of this entire kit are these chrome rose gold balloons. I've inflated and tied these into quads so I can sprinkle them all across the design in places where this chrome rose gold will really stand out. In this way, I'm going to continue to tie on quads and clusters until I like the shape of both garlands. The lower left-hand garland I really want to be angled towards the floor but square against the central arch, and the upper garland to smoothly glide across the top of the arches with a point right near the center underneath our sign, because in the end, we really want these balloons to point towards the high chair that will be the focal point of this design. I inflated a bunch of 5-inch balloons to 4.5 inches in diameter and tied them into quads. I'm going to attach these quads to the garland using a simple rubber band. Slip the rubber band over one of the balloons in that quad and then stretch the rubber band and slip it over one of the balloons that's already attached to the garland. This is a quick way to join balloons without having to tie any knots. When placing these little quads, I like to look for anywhere in my garland that has a hole or somewhere where I need to subtly change the shape of the garland. The addition of just a few of these little quads can make a huge difference in the overall design. Next, I'm going to add in some faux florals on top of my balloons. I have these white nosegays, which are basically bouquets pre-tied together, and bushes of these soft pink roses. Now, when you have a bush, you can either cluster them all together or you could spread them apart into smaller groupings. I'm going to insert my florals in between balloons and let the tension between the balloons hold the stems of those bouquets in place. This works really well if you're inserting florals on top or into the sides of balloons, but if you want your florals to face the floor, you'll need to tie them in either using 260s or use some adhesives so they don't just fall out from gravity. I'm alternating back and forth between placing my light pink and my white florals and intermixing them so they look like one long blended line across the top of my balloons. This is going to create a leading line from the base of the design all the way up to the center where the true focal point is. I'm also going to create this leading line effect in the upper balloon garland, but it'll look more like a Y shape, bringing your eyes from the outer edges of the garland down to that center point right where the high chair and our birthday girl are going to be. If you were inspired by today's design, you can purchase the exact same kit that I used in the description box below. If you're ready to take your balloons to the next level, check out our ultimate bundle of written plans of designs that I've created and used in my own business. So until the next time, remember, stay creative, everybody!